It starts before the sun has reached its full midday blaze. At precisely 8 p.m. the night before, a skeleton crew of seasoned cooks steps through the side entrance of the massive military cookhouse. Even from outside, you can catch the low hum of machinery: ovens, blast chillers, industrial dishwashers. Inside is an immense kitchen covering 60,000 square feet, one of the US military's largest dining halls, known simply as Sluggle. Within this fortress of culinary coordination, a team of 60 or more staff can turn out 4,500 lunches in a mere 90 minutes. But the scale is even more daunting when you peer into the details. Across a typical week, Sluggle dishes out 66,000 meals for a mix of Army soldiers, Navy sailors, and Air Force airmen stationed at Fort Sam Houston in San Antonio, Texas. That sheer volume demands a finely tuned system of planning and prep. Every step is orchestrated so that the food lines stay stocked, the service moves briskly, and thousands of trainees can refuel in record time before hustling back to their schedules. It's a daily test of both cooking prowess and logistical prowess, one that must be met without fail, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. The first shift is all about cooking ahead. 7 or 8 staff members roam the silent kitchen, gliding from one stainless steel workstation to the next. Tonight, the big tasks revolve around the next day's lunch. That means 600 pounds of ginger pot roast, 1,400 pounds of Bombay chicken, and 210 pounds of cheese tortellini are to be partially prepared. Those raw protein loads need roasting or browning in the ovens. That sauce for tortellini might need an initial simmer and a quick chill. One staffer carefully checks the shipping crates of beef knuckles, making sure they've thawed appropriately but remain chilled to a safe temperature. Another rummages through a rolling pantry to gather seasonings: garlic powder, ginger, cumin, salt, pepper, and a zesty marinade base for the chicken, plus the robust sauce components for the pot roast. Every station has its assignment taped to a stainless steel column. How many pans to fill? How many pounds of seasoning to apply? How many quarts of marinade to mix? One by one, the cooking steps begin. For the beef knuckles destined to become ginger pot roast, the cooks remove each vacuum-sealed bag, discard the packaging, and lay the hunks of beef in industrial-sized roasting pans. A few shakes of spice, some onions thrown in for aromatic effect, and the pans go into an oven about the length of a typical garage. This initial browning phase only partially cooks the meat, enough to seal in juices and ensure an even flavor layer. For the chicken, the staff piles up 1,400 pounds worth of quarters on similar baking trays, applying a marinade that hints at Indian flavors with a mild spice level. But these get reserved for the next morning's shift. The overnight crew's job is only to make sure they're prepped, spiced, and ready. From there, pans are loaded onto large rolling racks. With a heave, a cook pushes each rolling rack into a walk-in refrigerator designated for items partially prepped. Elsewhere, another cook is working on side dishes. He has an enormous tilt grill, like a massive rectangular pot on hinges, where he's boiling macaroni noodles to be used for pasta salad. Nearby, coleslaw or a variant on cabbage is readied. By the time the overnight shift wraps up around midnight, nearly everything for the next day's lunch stands partially cooked, cooled, or portioned, waiting for the morning crew to finish and assemble it. At 6 a.m., a second wave of staff streams in. This is the lunch crew, the day shift that will finalize each dish before the lunch rush, which typically starts around 11. One cook heads for the fridge to retrieve trays of browned beef knuckles. The meat now needs to be sliced. This is a delicate process. Each hunk must be cut thin enough to serve easily, but thick enough to retain moisture when it goes back in the oven for finishing. Moving at a quick but controlled pace, she manages to slice hundreds of pounds of beef in about an hour and a half. Meanwhile, other cooks roll massive racks of marinated chicken quarters from the fridge to one of the wide commercial ovens. The main courses must be started early enough so they can cook slowly and hold their flavor, yet not so early that they dry out under warming lights. Nearby, a pair of cooks collaborate on the cheese tortellini. They've got a 60-gallon kettle simmering a marinara-like sauce. The recipe calls for pizza sauce, vegetable oil, garlic, basil, oregano, and a handful of other seasonings. When ready, The sauce is poured over pans of tortellini, each batch slid into a conveyor oven for finishing. At the same time, staffers in another corner of the kitchen rummage through boxes of fresh vegetables. By the end of the day, they'll have diced and cooked 450 pounds of produce: peas, carrots, and cabbage. Another station is dedicated to the short order menu, items like hamburgers, fries, or grilled cheese that cater to quick picks. But for such a large facility, it's all about synergy. Each cook knows precisely the capacity of his or her workstation, how many pans fit in each oven, how many minutes it takes to get from cold to fully cooked. Because Schlegel's staff has an average tenure of 10 or 15 years, they move in a near-choreographed dance, adjusting swiftly if a certain oven is a few degrees off, or if the chicken needs a bit longer to reach its target temperature. Some might think the biggest challenge is the main courses, but the real shocker is dessert. The Cookhouse orders about 1,800 cakes a week, an entire pallet's worth of them for each set of meals. Cakes come in multiple forms. Sometimes they're delivered as big sheets that staff can cut into squares, other times as pre-portioned slices. Either way, the slices are often placed into individual containers for easy grab and go. Another sweet item might be brownies that come partially baked, requiring a quick reheat, or fruit cups with a dab of whipped topping. The underlying goal is to give trainees something sweet but not excessively loaded with sugar. The kitchen staff tries to walk a balance, enough desserts to satisfy cravings without overshadowing the healthy staples the military encourages. That healthy approach is anchored by a color-coded system known as Go for Green, mandated by the Department of Defense. Each tray line has green-labeled items. These are nutrient-dense foods that can be eaten frequently, like brown rice, steamed vegetables, or lean meats with minimal sauce. Items with a yellow label are okay in moderation. This might be a roll with some butter or a lightly salted side dish. Red labels denote foods trainees should treat sparingly. For example, a rich gravy, or perhaps a sugary dessert. While no one is physically limiting a soldier's portion, the signage helps them make more balanced choices. For a base commander, it's not just about health. Well-fueled soldiers can train better, maintain focus, and recover more quickly from demanding physical tasks. Food is energy, morale, and readiness all in one. Managing food inventory is another puzzle. A full-time staffer oversees the shipments of dairy, produce, meat, and bread, with deliveries scheduled all week. Mondays might bring a wave of dairy products. Wednesdays are heavy for produce. There's a separate freezer the size of a small warehouse, holding hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of food at any given time. Rows of crates are labeled: sausages, pancakes, waffles, asparagus, green beans, broccoli, peas, corn, stretching to a back wall in sub-zero temperatures. Because that freezer holds precious inventory, a slip in temperature could ruin tens of thousands of dollars in product. So everything is tracked meticulously. By 10:30 a.m., the main courses have finished cooking. Cooks line up in front of a pass-through window that leads to the warming room. The warming room stands at safe hot temps, so each pan is placed on rolling carts, sealed with foil or lids, ready for the final dash to the serving lines. Meanwhile, staffers set up the salad bar. Large stainless steel bowls of lettuce, tomatoes, cucumbers, olives, shredded cheese, diced ham, and even sliced fruit materialize in neat rows. Another portion of the staff stocks the beverages: water, sports drinks, milk, coffee, tea. Because lunchtime at Fort Sam typically sees 4,000 to 4,500 hungry trainees, the lines must be fully prepped before the first wave arrives. Schlegel's facility is organized into 2 floors, each with its own serving area, each seating about 1,100 people. With each floor able to hold that many, the entire place can theoretically accommodate over 2,000 diners at once. But the daily pace is even more impressive. In a short 90-minute window, they must rotate that crowd through, ensuring everyone gets a chance to fill their tray, eat, and get out in time for classes or training schedules. On a normal day, platoons would march in formation to the dining facility. But if weather conditions make it dangerous or cause a schedule shuffle, they may be allowed to head in at their own pace. The clock nears 11 a.m. One cook lifts the heavy lids to double-check the final look of the pot roast. After the night's partial browning and the morning's final roast, the The tender slices are nestled in gravy or sauce. Another staffer readies the last batch of Bombay chicken. The chicken quarters, coated in a mild marinade, are now crispy around the edges, crowned with a sauce that echoes Indian flavors, just enough spice to wake up the palate. Meanwhile, the cheese tortellini have come out of the oven piping hot, with the marinara sauce thick and tangy. The peas, carrots, and cabbage were gently boiled in the tilt grill, now awaiting that final swirl of butter or seasonings. A soldier might prefer something simple, like a big ladleful of steamed veggies over brown rice, or they might opt for the short order corner, which churns out hamburgers or grilled cheese. And let's not forget about the wide array of condiments: ketchup, mustard, hot sauce, and more, all conveniently placed in self-serve counters. By 11:10, the first trainees arrive, weaving through lines that funnel them to trays and utensils. Servers, many of whom have been at Slaggle for a decade or more, ask them what they'd like. Some people choose the pot roast, others the chicken, or a bit of everything. Meanwhile, overhead boards or signs identify the color-coded categories. The pot roast might be a yellow item, the gravy red, the steamed vegetables or brown rice green, and so on. No one is forced to pick certain color codes, but the signage gently reminds them of the recommended balance. For those with a sweet tooth, the staff cuts thousands of cake slices. Some might be lemon cake, others chocolate. The staff jokes that they're always trying to fool them by making a tasty dessert that uses slightly less sugar. The trainees, though, mostly just appreciate something sweet to reward a grueling morning of marches or classes. The dining room atmosphere is a kinetic swirl. Rows of tables fill quickly, plastic cups and utensils clink, and the chatter of hundreds of hungry men and women resonates through the space. Some manage to eat calmly, savoring every bite of pot roast or swirling their fork in marinara sauce. Others barely have 15 minutes to finish, especially if they arrive near the end of their platoon line. An unspoken courtesy encourages fast turnover. Get fed, get your energy, and pass the seat along for the next wave behind you. It's an example of discipline in practice. Everyone cooperates so all 4,500 can be served without chaos. An hour later, the line still runs, but it's thinning. The staff meticulously checks pan after pan, ensuring nothing runs out. If a certain dish, like the Bombay chicken, is more popular than expected, they pivot quickly, perhaps retrieving an extra batch or encouraging trainees to try the pot roast. Usually, planning ensures the right volume, but occasionally there's a surprise surge in preference for one entree. Either way, they adapt. They always keep enough pans in reserve to feed everyone. By 12:30 or 12:45, most have eaten. Trainees drift away in small groups, returning trays or disposing of single-use packaging. Now it's the staff's turn to restore order. They'll wipe down tables, gather trays, push out new chairs if needed. All the while, a sense of relief pulses through the staff that once again, lunch was a success. That moment of reprieve is fleeting. Dinner is only 4 hours away. The staff face a huge cleanup effort, from the dining room floors to the stainless steel counters. Mountains of utensils go through an industrial dishwasher, while pots and pans from the tilt grill or ovens soak in another high-powered system. Meanwhile, a portion of the staff sets in motion the next day's cycle of tasks: checking deliveries, confirming tomorrow's menu, verifying that the freezers remain at the right temperature, ensuring dairy shipments arrived intact, and updating the staff on how many heads came through for lunch. That meal count is crucial. If they served 4,500 at lunch, that might hint at 4,800 for dinner, or possibly fewer if some trainees go off base. The day's demands shift constantly, and Slaggle's staff must be nimble. Occasionally, they also incorporate special events or dietary needs. Some trainees request vegetarian or vegan meals. Some require gluten-free or low-sodium diets. The staff keeps a record of these requests so that every soldier, airman, or sailor can eat safely. They don't have the time or capacity to customize every dish, but they carve out sections of the line or side stations for these alternatives. Even for standard meals, no one is restricted to a single entree. The staff encourages them to go back for seconds if they want more, so long as they keep it balanced and remain mindful of their training. The reason behind all of this isn't just culinary pride. It's about fueling the US military's next generation of medics, operators, and specialists. Those enrolled at Fort Sam Houston's Medical Education and Training Campus, for instance, endure rigorous study and physical demands. Slagle's staff feels an unspoken mission to supply these men and women with the energy they need to excel, day after day. The motto is that they can't provide the spirit or the discipline, but they can provide the calories and nutrients that keep bodies strong and minds focused. That ethos is captured in the name Slagle Hall, honoring Sergeant First Class Wayne Slagle, an Army medic who served heroically. It's a reminder that feeding the troops is more than just a job. It's a vital piece of readiness and morale. The staff sees themselves as the behind-the-scenes force making training possible. When you watch them slice trays of meat or stir huge pots of vegetables, it's clear they take pride in feeding 4,500 troops without missing a beat. As the afternoon sun dips lower, the cooks close out the lunch shift. Some staff members will catch a break before returning to prepare dinner or the next day's breakfast. Others finish their day, passing the baton to a fresh wave that'll manage the evening routine. But the cycle never truly stops. Even in the dead of night, another small crew will be there, browning meats or boiling pasta, restocking the salad bar ingredients, or making sure the freezers remain well organized. This is how Slagle consistently cranks out well over 2 million meals a year. The facility's grocery bill runs upward of $14 million annually. But cost aside, the real measure of success is the surge of soldiers, airmen, and sailors streaming in at lunchtime and leaving with a satiated appetite, enough energy to power them through another day of rigorous training. At first glance, it might seem outlandish. 4,500 people fed in just 90 minutes. But that's exactly what happens at this military cookhouse, day in and day out, with minimal drama and maximum efficiency. That's the standard they hold themselves to. Ask the staff what the secret is, and they'll likely point to 3 factors: experience, discipline, and a deep understanding of how to keep a hungry force happy. Meals here aren't about exotic flair or fine dining. They're about variety, consistency, and balance. From the everyday pot roast and chicken to the short-order burgers and the massive salad bar, Slagle's operation is a monument to the art and science of mass catering, where timing, teamwork, and dedication blend together to fuel thousands of service members without missing a beat.